Hello, my name is Randy Fulliard. This last week I received a call from a viewer from Discover the Truth about Acts 10. This person believed that Peter's vision here nullified the clean food laws. Now, many people hold this. Matter of fact, the vast majority within nominal worship today believe this. But is this the reality of what we find within Acts 10? I think when we look at the passage, we're going to find a very different outcome. So let's do that now. I want to start with verse 1 because, with the Bible, it's so important that we understand context. Verse 1 says, there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian Band, a devout man and one that feared Elohim and all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to Elohim always. So, number one, it's important to recognize here that this man was an Italian. He was a Gentile. He was not a Hebrew. And this sort of sets the stage for what we're going to find within this passage. Verse 3, he saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of Elohim coming to him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, master? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thine alms are come up for a memorial before Elohim. And now send men to Joppa and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter. So here we find that Cornelius receives a vision saying that he is to seek out Peter and bring Peter back to him. Verse 6, he lodges with one Simon a tanner, whose house is by the seaside. He shall tell thee what thou ought to do. And when the angel which spake unto Cornelius was departed, he called 2 of his household servants, and the devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. And when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. And the morrow as they went on their journey, and drew nigh into the city, Peter went up unto the housetop to pray about the 6 hours. So here is a beginning of Peter's vision. This is when he receives a vision from Almighty Yahweh, really through Yahshua the Messiah, and receives this important revelation or message. So let's continue reading verse 10. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance and saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet, near the 4 corners of the and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, master, for I've never eaten anything that is common or unclean. I want to stop here for just a moment and make sure you realize some of the context here. Well, number one, we see a vision here, and we see this sheet full of all types of unclean animals. But Peter says here that he had never eaten anything common or unclean. Now, this was 10 years after Yahshua's ascension to heaven. And for some odd reason, Peter's still eating kosher. Well, that's according to those proponents who believe that these laws are no longer necessary. Did Peter just simply not receive the memo? Why is Peter still eating kosher? Why is Peter not deviating from this, as so many theologians believe that these laws were no longer necessary after the death of Yahshua the Messiah? Well, let's continue reading. In verse 16, it says, This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. Now, while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which sent forth from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house and stood before the gate. So the important thing here in verse 17 is to notice that Peter doubted on the meaning of the vision. He did not know the intent or the revelation that Yahweh was trying to convey. And this is so important because, people, they read this and they will know or seem to know the meaning. And yet Peter himself, after receiving this important vision, did not know the purpose or meaning behind it. Now we find the purpose, and again, context is key here. In verse 28, so Acts chapter 10, verse 28, it says, And he said unto them, Know you how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company, or to come unto one another nation? But Elohim hath showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. So we find here the meaning now behind Peter's revelation, behind the vision that he received. It was to convey to Peter, to convey to this man that he was not to call any man common or unclean. We know that Peter had an issue with this, and it's sort of like a reverse anti-Semitism, these people, these Jews, had an issue with Gentiles because they viewed them as unclean or unfit. And Yahweh here is telling Peter, look, call no man common or unclean because of their nationality, because of their race. It doesn't matter. Matter of fact, in verse 34, Peter continues here. He says, then Peter opened his mouth and said, of a truth I perceive that only he is no respecter of persons, but in every nation be he that feareth him, and works righteousness is acceptable with him. So we find a very key verse here, and that is that those who fear Yahweh, those who obey him, are those who are found righteous and those that are acceptable to him. So Yahweh here, what we see here is he bringing down that wall that separated a Jew from Gentile. This has nothing to do with clean foods being nullified. Yahweh here is conveying to Peter, which again had an issue with this, that he was not to make or show a distinction between nationality or race. Well, I pray that this has helped, and I pray that you would join me for future video blogs like this one here. Until next time, may Yahweh bless. Bye-bye.